Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. I'm Courtney. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wow, it's been a while since I've said that. I used to say that at every, right from the get-go in every podcast, and then somehow I stopped saying it. Gotta start. I'm sure people were just like, what happened? Just kidding. I don't think anybody would know the difference. But if you did notice, I'm going to start saying it again. I'm bringing sexy back. I'm bringing hell. Oh my gosh, my cat is on my counter. That's very obnoxious. Ew. No. But he's really old and senile, and I can't really I get mad at him still. I'll squirt him with a squirt bottle. He only does it when he thinks that I'm going to give him food. He is not up there all the time, thank God. But anyway, God, see, I got really sidetracked right away. Like right from the get-go, just immediately. Squirrel, 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 squirrel. I'm sorry. Let's try this again. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. I am Courtney. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so very much for every single person that has been listening to me either from the beginning or is just now tuning in. I super duper duper appreciate it. It means so much. And like I said, I always try to think of clever ways to say thank you and to show my appreciation, but I don't know how else to say it, to express it, other than to just be genuine. Just know that I'm being genuine. I very much appreciate everyone that's been tuning in, despite all of the hiccups, despite all of the flaws this podcast has. It's all the more reason why you guys deserve a huge shout out, a pat on the back. Pat yourselves on the back, because I don't have an intro. I still do not have an intro or an outro, and I'm just making this shit up as I go. I have no idea what I am doing. I started this, like I've said before, I started this originally because my mom, I wanted to talk about the experience I had during COVID when my mom was in assisted living and then memory care, and how Kate Brown, who was the governor at the time of Oregon, and how Biden, who was the president at the time, how they just severely foobarred the entire thing. And I blame them 100% for my mother's death, along with many, many, many other deaths. I blame the Biden administration and their handling of COVID and vaccines. And so I started this podcast, and I wanted to not only talk about that, but I also just wanted to talk about how poorly our elderly are treated and how people don't prepare us or our loved ones for exactly what happens when you get older and what our options are and what we need to do. I don't feel it's talked about enough. I don't feel we're educated enough about it. I think it literally needs to start in college or something. Like, we need to have programs that allow you not to be morbid and constantly think about death, but just to understand what a will is and when you should have one, and what life insurance is, or what, saving up for retirement and Social Security is, and what Medicaid and Medicare is, and what assisted living is, and exactly how much it costs, and who has to pay for it, and what it gets you, the type of care it gets you. If there's a waiting list, the fact that they have usually shortage, they're usually severely understaffed because caregivers do not get paid enough. But there's also, that kind of goes both ways, because unfortunately there are also shitty caregivers that are more in it to just be abusive. They have a dark side and they want to be abusive, and they aren't good at their job and they abuse the elderly. I'm talking about private caregivers and stuff. You've seen lots of footage of that happening. And that's not good. So, but then when you have CNAs that are, and, you have caregivers that are in assisted living and memory care, more often than not, they're severely understaffed. So they have to treat residents like cattle. They have to just kind of go in, do a quick job. They don't have time to be thorough. They don't have time to talk to the residents, to sit down with the residents, to to do anything. They're just in, out, which isn't their fault. They're just trying to get everybody cared for. And if they stop and chat, then unfortunately there are now going to be residents that aren't going to the bathroom and aren't getting showers and aren't getting changed and aren't getting to their meals in time. And so it's sad because they're usually understaffed. So I'm not just saying that, the caregivers were, that it's not all their fault. That said, the caregivers did take a lot of part in it because and the med techs and the doctors that came in, because my mom had a catheter and she should have been in more of a nursing home because she needed that catheter cared for. So I had to take her to and from a urologist, and she had an oxygen tank and she had a walker, and it was very, very, very difficult for her to get around, especially because she couldn't hold, she had a catheter. So the catheter was a pain in the butt. The walker was a pain in the butt. She had double hip surgery like a couple years prior, and they were hurting her again. And it was a whole thing. And getting in and out of my car, it was a whole mess. So just the treatment that the elderly get, and the fact that my mom had to sell her home to pay to get care. She had to, the home that she and my dad invested in and bought with their own sweat and tears, their own sweat and blood, that they paid off, that was paid off. They owned it, not the government. They paid taxes on it to the government. And what did they get? They had to give it back to the government in order to be cared for. So here are these humans that go around, a lot of them fighting in wars, being firemen, being policemen, or a lot of these women are going around doing the same thing, being firemen, being policemen, fighting in wars, being whatever it is. These people have, whatever the occupation is or whatever it is they did, they've earned the right to be cared for. They've paid into being cared for because they get taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed. And people make promises. And then they end up having to give up their homes. So now these family have to watch their childhood home be taken back to be given to the government, instead of being kept in their family and being handed down from generation to generation. Why in God's name did my parents or anybody else why did they have to give up their homes or their cars or anything that they have bought and paid for, and especially bought, paid for, and paid taxes on? They should never, ever, ever, ever have to give up any of it. And it is an absolute shame, abomination. It is absolutely disgusting and deplorable and disrespectful that our elderly aren't treated like kings and queens. There is no reason why elderly should have to choose between giving up their home and living. They already bought their home. It's theirs. The government has zero right to be taking that from them. And yet it happens all the time. It happened to my grandparents. My grandparents had their home bought and paid for. Beautiful home, beautiful yard, beautiful property. My grandmother had to have hospice care because she had stomach cancer. And she had hospice care for about 3 months, which is very expensive. Then my grandfather, right after my grandmother died, like I said, she had care for about 3 months. Then my grandfather was put in assisted living. I couldn't care for them. I was very young at the time with 2 kids. I found out that I had cancer. I was going through a divorce. I ended up getting meningitis. I was working and going to school, and I lived 3 hours away. And unfortunately, I couldn't uproot my whole family, my kids and stuff, and the only job that I had. So my father was put in assisted living. And somehow, my grandparents' beautiful home with beautiful property somehow the government put a lien on that in order to pay for my grandfather's care. So they're telling me that assisted living, that his Medicaid or Medicare, I'm sorry, I do get the two confused, didn't cover it, that he had no type of insurance whatsoever. He had nothing through the state. He couldn't get state help. And you're telling me that state won't give help if you own something. Then they're like, oh, we're not going to give you help because you own something that we can use. And we're just going to take that from you. And then somehow they're saying 1 year of care. My grandfather was in memory care for 1 year and then he passed away. And they're going to somehow claim that that cost about $500,000. Now, I know that that's not true because my mother was in memory care with all kinds of extra assistance. We're talking tons of assistance. And this was in 2022, not way back in 1997. 1997, it didn't cost $5,000 to $7,000. My mom was paying $7,000 to $8,000 a month. So I'm sorry. My grandparents' home was back then worth about $300,000. Back in like 97. So, yeah, the math doesn't add up and our government doesn't get to go, oh, we're not going to give you a shit bit of help unless, you have absolutely nothing. So those of you that have worked hard and worked your fingers to the bone and been paying taxes, you don't get shit. We're going to keep taking from you because you're our cash cow. We're just going to keep taking and taking and taking. And then we're going to try to take away your soul and your spirit and your children's soul and spirit and your grandchildren's soul and spirit. And we're just going to keep going down each generation and sucking the life and the bones dry. Just lick it off our fingertips. Just eat it like a rib. Every morsel, we're just going to take and take and take. It's absolutely disgraceful. Disgraceful is an understatement. What we are doing to the elderly is just absolutely, again, it's the reason that I started this podcast. I didn't care if it was professional. I didn't care if you could hear shit in the background. I didn't care if it wasn't a video of me. I should do a video of me because I understand that gets more views. I understand that puts me out there. Sorry, there's a leaf blower going on. Speaking of hearing stuff in the background, there we go. Case in point, leaf blower. Plus, you might be able to hear my dryer. But I'm pacing around. I've discussed this so many times, but just in case for the new people, I pace around, I walk around. I don't like to sit in place. So sitting down at a table or a laptop or something, the thought of that, oh my God, I can't. I've never, my entire life, back when phone cords used to be 10 miles long and, you wrap them around stuff, I would walk around, even though that phone cord would get caught up in everything and tangled up in everything. I could not sit still. And it drove my parents crazy to the point that, hey, I got spoiled. I know this is spoiled, but I got spoiled. And I not only got my own phone, but I got my own phone line, my very own phone line. And back in the 90s, you know how freaking cool that was? This was actually late 80s. And so I would walk around, even with a gigantic cord getting tangled and me tripping up in it because I can't sit still. So, I started this podcast just being like, these are my feelings. And sometimes it's political. Sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes it's parenting. Sometimes it's just life. Sometimes I talk about animals and photography. People are like, you need to pick a topic, but my topic is just life and what's going on. And sometimes I get super, super fired up about whatever topic it is. And sometimes I'm going to say things that are going to really piss people off and rub people the wrong way. And some people are going to want me to apologize. And sometimes I might, but most of the time, probably not, because I don't apologize if I'm not sorry. So depending on what I said or did, I may not be sorry and you may want me to be. And you may hope that I am, but if I don't say I'm sorry, then I'm not sorry. So The good news is if you get a sorry from me, it does mean that it's genuine. So anyway, I hate the way that our military gets treated. I hate the way that our veterans get treated. I hate the way that our elderly get treated. I don't like the way that our animals get treated. Well, I mean, America really spoils the shit out of our animals for the most part, and we take care of them a lot more than I've been to other countries. I've been to third world countries. I see how they treat their animals, and it's not always great. I'm not saying that if you're from a third world country that you treat your animals bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I've been to third world countries and I've seen horrific things and have seen how they treat their animals, and it's not great, at least to the cities that I've been in those particular countries. But, you know, America also doesn't always treat our animals great either, or our people, which is sad. It breaks my heart. I hate saying this word because I feel like it's overused and I feel like it's such a hippie thing to say, but I always say I'm a conservative hippie. I do have a very hippie side of me, so, you know, there's that. I've said it forever, but I'm such an empath that I can't stand seeing things suffer. I mean, who does? That doesn't mean I'm an empath. That just hopefully means I'm normal. I mean, only psychopaths want to see things suffer. So, I mean, I'm hoping this is a normal thing. I'm not special, but I hate it so much. It just makes me absolutely ill, and I will intervene. And I've always been the stand up for the underdog. You know, I'm not going to, under my watch, I'm not going to let something that I feel is, if I feel someone is picking or something is picking on someone or something else, I'm definitely going to intervene. I'm not going to sit by. I can't stand the fact that people now stand by and videotape. So you're going to videotape an old man and his dogs getting beat up. And of course, some of the people that are videotaping are the ones that are like partaking in it. But I'm talking about the bystanders that don't know the people that are doing it, and they just whip out their phone. They don't try to intervene. I'm sorry, if you're going to be beating up on an elderly person or an animal, I'm going to 100% intervene. That's going to happen. Just like I've said, if you are a dude and you come into a female's bathroom, I'm 100% going to make you a female by the time you get out of that bathroom, because I'm going to take your dick and I'm going to stretch it up around your neck. Sorry if that's graphic. Sorry if it's explicit. But it's going to be graphic and explicit if you are, especially if a kid is in there. But, I mean, here I am saying, you know, I'm going to stand up for the underdog. But to me, women and children are the underdog when there's a man in the bathroom. Do you know how, I don't think people understand how terrifying it is, especially someone like me. I'll speak for myself. Someone like me who comes from sexual abuse and physical abuse. I'm not particularly fond of men cornering me in my what's supposed to be safe zone, where I'm in a very, very, very vulnerable position. I have my pants down, my vag is hanging out, I'm peeing, I'm in a stall that is very small. That is an incredibly, incredibly scary place and vulnerable place for women. And then you add having any type of abuse thrown on top of that, and then you throw a child into it where you're towering over someone. More often than not all the time, but more often than not, men are taller than women, and especially taller than a child. And you're going to think that this is having something against a trans person. No, this has something against a man being in a female bathroom. Why do you want to be there? And when did you suddenly identify? And if you identify as a female, then you need to well, get your head checked. I'm sorry. I don't care if you dress like a female. That's fine. I don't care what you dress like. But if you're going to try to be in sports where you can punch a woman or take away some woman who has spent all of her blood, sweat, tears, and money and life and poured all of that into a sport so that they can get a gold medal or so that they can, win a competition, and you're going to take that away because you just suddenly woke up one day and decided to identify as a female, but yet can't tell me what a female is? No. I don't like things being taken away from people by someone that doesn't earn it. I get very territorial over work the same way. Like, I like pecking order. I believe in pecking order because I don't think someone should just waltz in and take over something unless you are elected to do so, like the president, for instance. Or let's say your parents owned a company, they passed away, and now, you're taking over. Okay, I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. I don't know. I wish there was a way to convey to people that, what exactly assisted living is, memory care is, nursing facilities are, in-home care is, private care, all of these things, foster care, all of that, and who pays for it, and what it takes for you to have those things, how much it costs, and how much you get for what you pay. What you're going to pay, how much it costs, and what do you get for that? Because things like getting a shower, more than twice a week, for example, costs money. There's things that cost money that should not cost money. I don't think that the elderly should have to pay at all. And I certainly don't think they should have to give up anything that they've already bought and paid for and worked and earned. And it just really frustrates me. That is such a huge understatement. Frustrates me it doesn't even begin to say how I feel. It's awful. And again, our veterans treated like dog shit as well. Our military, it's just insanity. The way Israel is getting treated, insanity. It's so crazy that so many people have to defend themselves against people that are being the bullies, and somehow the ones getting bullied are in the wrong. Somehow the ones getting attacked are in the wrong. Somehow the ones that are just trying to survive and just trying to pay their bills and are fucking law-abiding citizens that are minding their own goddamn business and decide to wear a hat that maybe has a different opinion or point of view than someone else, and we're getting the shit beat out of us. Meanwhile, you can wear a Biden shirt. You can wear, like a satanic shirt. You can wear maybe a band I don't like. You can wear whatever the hell, maybe a color of shirt that I can't stand. I'm not going to beat you up over it because it's called an opinion. Someone can wear whatever they want. Like I said, trans, if a guy wants to dress in girls' clothes, I don't care. That's never been my problem. But you don't get to go around beating someone up because of it. And if you do, there are consequences, and you're not the victim. You're not the victim. And somehow the actual victim is no longer the victim, because that's the game that the Biden administration started. I don't mean to sound like that, like they started it, because like I've said all along, I don't think Republicans are perfect either. I don't think that Trump is perfect. I don't think anyone is perfect. I just said this on my last podcast. I'm not under the impression or the delusion or the illusion that anybody at all is perfect or that anyone is free from fucking up and sin. But Holy Mother of God, why is it that no one can just admit it and go, you know what, you're right, I fucked up. I did that. Let's move on now. Let's try to fix it. Now I know better. Now I'm going to learn a lesson. Wouldn't learning a lesson be amazing? Wouldn't it be so freaking fantastic? And wouldn't we be, we wouldn't be wasting so much time if we would actually learn our lessons? God knows I could have got a lot more in my life. I would have wasted a lot less time if I would have learned lessons, if I would have learned my lesson. That would have been handy if I would have, been like, wow, I did that wrong. I shouldn't do that again. And instead, we're just, again, definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. We're not learning our lesson. And right now, what we are doing, what the Biden administration was doing, wasn't working. And again, I looked up the statistics on ChatGPT, not Google, not a biased thing, on ChatGPT. And I'm sorry, but the statistics and the facts are in. Democrat blue cities are 100% crap. It is where all of the homicides occur. It is where all of the rape and the robberies occur. It is where everybody is moving out of. And the Republican cities are where everybody is moving in. Those are facts according to ChatGPT. Because again, you can't look up the states that are the best or have the least amount of crime or whatever. Because unfortunately, you can have a state like Delaware that has hardly anybody in it. So you do have to say per capita, but there are, again, like Oregon has 3 large, very Democrat cities. We have Portland and Eugene and Bend. But for the most part, the rest of Oregon is Republican. And so it sucks because these large cities speak for everybody because, of course, they're the most populous. But my point is, it doesn't mean that everybody in Oregon feels that way. So it kind of sucks because when you put in like the safest or whatever states, that's great. But then if you put in cities specifically, they are Democrat-ran, large populated cities that are right now everybody's moving out of. And they are Democrat-ran cities that have the highest rate of homicide, the highest rate of rape, the highest robberies. And you can tell because it's a ghost town. Portland is like for sale. You can't park your car in Portland because you're going to have your windows broke or your, what is it called? Inverter? No. What the hell is that thing called? People are going to laugh at me. It's under your car and people were stealing them. All the meth heads were stealing them. I'll think of it later. Anyways, they were getting under your car and stealing parts. So catalytic converter? No. Is that it? That might be it. You know my point. My point is you can't park a car in Portland, even in a parking garage. It doesn't matter. It's going to get broken into. Businesses are shutting down. It's in dire straits. California, like LA, San Francisco, same thing. It doesn't bode well for the economy or for the people when you're ran the way that Democrats have been running things. And again, these are just facts. I'm sorry if those piss you off. I'm sorry if they make you angry. Don't get mad at don't shoot the messenger. These are just facts. And so we just need to learn that this is insanity doing these things that don't work over and over. And we just need to learn to say, I'm sorry, and learn from our mistakes. And so again, this goes for everybody. Everybody. And so our mistakes have been treating the elderly and our veterans and our military like crap, treating people like crap that have different beliefs, trying to have them censored and ruin their life, get them canceled because of a different belief. Whatever happened to talking? We're just teaching our kids and showing our kids that fighting and setting things on fire and punching, well, I already said fighting, but setting things on fire and stealing and screaming and yelling and throwing temper tantrums is the best way to resolve issues. So then our kids start doing it, and their kids start doing it. And now it's just a bunch of entitled, screaming, yelling, temper tantrum throwing, violent criminals out there. Because we're also giving everybody needles, and now there are less counselors. We need a lot more counselors. We need a lot more psychiatrists, and we need counselors that aren't woke. We need actual counselors, just like we need actual journalists that have nothing, that don't open their mouth about their effing opinions. They only go out for one purpose, and that purpose is to get all points of view, to gather information, to gather facts, to gather statistics, to talk to everybody and anyone, and then get on air and give us the information, give us the facts. We don't need the rest of the crap. So we need counselors that are actual counselors, that are actually certified. We need psychiatrists. We need psychologists. We need actual doctors that aren't working for Big Farm. We need people to do their jobs, to do their actual jobs. Just like in the government, we need people to do their actual jobs. And if you don't do your actual job, I'm going to keep saying that word, then you get fired. Then there are consequences. And the fact that people don't want there to be consequences when people aren't doing what they're paid to do, and instead they're spewing out propaganda, or they're trying to kill us like Big Pharma is, and like Bill Gates, and like a lot of these politicians are. Spreading misinformation can kill us and start us to do what we're doing now. Completely separate and divide us, and they can divide and conquer. It's always about information and point of view and observing and going out and doing your due diligence. And one day you're going to be an elderly person, and you're going to wish to God that someone was taking care of you in a proper way and not, mishandling you or treating you like cattle. And if you own property and you own stuff, it's all going to go bye-bye, and you're not going to be too thrilled about it. When the shoe is on the other foot and you're the one having to suffer the consequences, you're going to think differently. And you're going to wish that you've learned some lessons, or that you actually, listened to people who might know a little bit more than you, because sometimes your elders actually know what the fuck they're talking about, because it means they've been there, done that. They've already experienced it. They've learned lessons. They did learn their lesson, and now they're passing on those lessons to you. And it may or may not be useful. Maybe it applies to you. Maybe it'll apply to you later. But it's still really good information to take in. I know I should have listened a lot more, because we all tend to roll our eyes and be like, blah, blah, blah. But how dare us? How dare us do this to people who have been around and seen and been through and done more than we have? They've experienced hardship like we can't imagine, especially if they've gone through depression and wars. I mean, my God, and we treat these people like they're idiots. It's sad. And then we just put them out to pasture and we no longer care. That's some psychotic behavior. That's some really messed up. That's just messed up. We do the same to like animals that no longer function, like, horses that no longer win titles, or greyhounds that no longer win titles. We just shoot them like it's nothing. Like, I can't wrap my head around that type of person or that mentality. I just don't see it. Shooting an animal for hunting is one thing. For actual food is one thing. Poaching, not okay. Hunting for actual food, okay. In my opinion. And killing animals just because they no longer win prizes and trophies, not okay. It's just, I don't understand how we just throw away life, I don't understand how we just bully and beat up someone for no fucking reason. What is wrong with people? Man. I've been talking about I just want to see the good and I want to focus on the good, because usually it's that saying, if all you focus on are yellow taxis, all you're going to see is yellow taxis. So I understand if all I do is focus on the bad, that's all I'm going to see. So I'm trying, I am, but I also said I would do this podcast so I could get the word out. So I'm going to do that as well. We need to work on this whole respect and pecking order thing, because I absolutely think that if you've been on this earth longer, you've paid your dues, and you 100% deserve more than me, who hasn't been around as long and hasn't paid as much as you. Mentally, physically, or with money, obviously. So no. I can't continue to see how people are treating others and not step in. And the fact that people don't step in, wow. I hope there is a hell or karma or both or something like hell. I just hope that shitty people pay in some way, because I'm getting real tired of shit people, evil people just waltzing around making more and more money and getting away with whatever the hell they want. Ugh. Anyway, taking my breath, tapping my third eye 21 times, centering my chi. Man. All right. Ending on a good note. I am going to, it's my day off. I'm going to hang out with my pooches. I am going to get fresh air. I am going to do some breathing. I'm going to listen to some music. I am going to maybe just sit on my butt today and watch stupid crap. Maybe I'll just watch cooking shows all day. I don't think cooking shows are stupid. I love them. I just mean, just gonna maybe sit around the rest of the day and chill. So I hope that you guys get to do the same. Or if you're working, man, I hope it goes by quick. I hope you have an excellent day at work or wherever you are. I hope you can find the good. I hope that you can, let go of all of the crap and focus on what you can control. And you can control listening to my podcast and who you spread that news to. You can go around letting everybody know that this is the podcast. This is the new happening one, Anyway, I appreciate you so much. Until next time.